For this year, I was kind of out of a ride. I reached out to Jeff Zwart, a friend of mine and a friend of Joey's, and was kind of like, do you have any opportunities that I could drive? You know, I want to be a part of this kind of historic year. He was like, let me get back to you in a couple of weeks. I might have something special.
So Rhys called and said, I hear you've got something up your sleeve that you're cooking up. And I said, yes. He said, you should probably come over, you know, and take a look at it. So I think the next day he showed up, showed him around the car. We struck a plan and shook hands, which was really very exciting because, you know, working with Rhys is going to be the ticket.
I placed this call kind of at the perfect time, and sometimes that's all it takes. And that was to drive the Porsche 991 GT3R twin turbo that these guys were building. Now, the interesting part came along in the fact that I've never raced a Porsche before. This was quite a different dynamic for me. So A, I was excited. B, I wasn't certain what I could manipulate in what direction, and that's really where the bond between Joey and I started.
We started off with the test at thermal and some of my client track car builds, just to get his gears turning, feeling that kind of power in a rear engine layout. I wanted him to be familiar and comfortable so that we could develop the chassis.
It was really just a great foundation of feeling that rear grip, and it is pretty intense. It was a great foundation to walk away from that day a couple of weeks prior to running the real race car to kind of set my tone of where I needed to go with the race car setup. The interesting thing about Pikes Peak, again, from a development standpoint and preparation standpoint, is not so much where you test and what the race is. It's really understanding what happens on race day, and you really need to experience that to then back out of that to how you need to test. The test schedule to me was critical. A driver has to be confident in the vehicle to be able to take it to Pikes Peak where there's so much risk, and you're only going to go fast if you're comfortable in the vehicle. We go to a track that this car is never designed for. I had guys scratching their heads, why are we here? But you need to understand and relate it to the race course. And though Pikes Peak is a 12-mile track course, it's 3 different sections, 3 different courses within that one race. So going to Horse Thief gives us a foundation of low-speed front grip and rear mechanical grip coming off tighter corners. And that is a resemblance of the end of section 1, the entire middle section, and then really a couple of corners on the upper section.
Talk me through it, coach.
His experience with the platform, his understanding of what the car needed, gave me a neutral foundation to start with, so close to what I just needed to add a couple of tweaks.
First thing with a 911 is to settle the rear down, you know, so I always focus there, and then as I get to know the driver and their capabilities, start to dial in more front grip. So we really brought him up nice and slow, and the chassis as well, with him, to where I realized he was comfortable, because he started calling out changes to the car, anticipating what I was going to do. You know, when he started doing that, I got really excited. There was really never a push-pull scenario. We just kept moving forward and getting better and better and better.
My first experience of cracking the gears going around the streets of Willow. To put it into 3 words, what I said in my head under my helmet is, oh, hell yeah.
He's feeling it, you know, and he was trying to make the car do things on track that weren't related to lap times. you could see it. He'd be out there and he would, all of a sudden start going slow, and then he'd go fast, and then he'd go slow, and trying to reduce airflow of the car but increase load. So it really helped us with getting the scientific approach of cause and effect. What's this going to do? What's that going to do?
We've made changes to cambers, we've made changes to the rake of the vehicle, we've made changes to shock settings, and it's really starting to develop into a car that I'm really confident in.
That's why we never misstepped, and we're able to keep moving forward and getting more and more efficient and faster.
Joey did a great job. We were running only low power to begin with. We just took a normally aspirated engine and we just made it twin turbo. We're putting so much more load from torque and horsepower and heat demand that water temperatures, oil temperatures, and everything were going thermal. Not to a point that we were damaging anything, but we were just needing more of a sealing security to control those temperatures. And then we kind of went through, I wouldn't say negative experiences, but growing experiences. The mountain tests are just absolutely critical if you're passionate, if you're invested, and if you're serious. And it was really exciting to have both mountain test weekends that made up 5 mornings on the mountain rolling into race week. At that point, if you're dialed and you have everything checked, you can pretty much do a rinse repeat on race week and just add tenths of a second of improvement. Tuning was probably the biggest challenge on getting the engine calibration dead right. We had engineering present and those guys were doing a great job. It just really was reliant on me giving them feedback. Really, for me, it's not about making horsepower. You need response, you need torque, and that's exactly what this package had. Joey and the guys had done a great job. We got a good foundation, a good understanding of the chassis, and we were right where we needed to be at that point on times. You never know what the weather's going to do. You want to be faster than everyone. If the weather's great, then you can push for an overall record.
We were probably the most prepared car there. Really, honestly, Rhys was just having fun and getting familiar with the car on the mountain. And as we got quicker and making more power, we really got to a level that I've never, ever tried before. But that was me trusting Rhys. Once we had that, it was all fun. I've never had so much fun, from him getting out of the car and laughing, and talking about different turns. And we got to a point that we were very happy. We had often quickest times in practice overall. Then it was just time for race week. Even before the tire test, the private tire test at Pikes Peak, we spent a day at Aspen Motorsport Park with Jeff Zwart driving. And the reactions from him were fantastic because he's like, I wish you never let me drive this car. I'm ruined. He's like, this is easier to drive than the 935-19, which that was always his statement on the 935 was how easy and carefree it was. For us to have much more horsepower, much more aero, much more everything, and have him say it was predictable and easy to drive was awesome. And he also said, you have a sub 9-minute car.
I remember hopping out of the car and going up to Joey, giving him a pat on the back after that first session with full power and everything working, and just kind of saying, we've got a race car.